Okay, hello everybody. I think we'll call the meetings to order. Just before we get into any of them, we are now live streaming this over YouTube for any of your friends or whatever who want to join in or watch it. There are no delegations. Remember, we've got the policy that delegations can pre-register. No delegations have signed up for today. And remember, if you could please, to keep your microphones muted. We'll go to you. You know, when I call you out, I'll ask that you unmute yourself, say your remarks, and then mute yourself again, and get my attention by raising your hand. So, with that, I'm going to call the closed council meeting to order and recess it until following the open GP, open finance, and closed GP meetings. With that, I'll call the General Purposes Committee meeting to order. May I have a motion on the minutes? Okay, Jack is moved and that's seconded. Any discussion on that? I don't see any. All those in favor? Anybody opposed to any of that? Okay, we'll take it. Now, Bill, your microphone's not muted. So the first item is the award of request for the quotation of TELUS equipment, with TELUS being the successful party. Grant Fengstad, I assume you're there. Do you want to say anything about this, or is it all in the report?
Yes, yes. Good afternoon, Your Worship. I have nothing to add to the report. I'd be happy to answer any questions that may come forward.
All right. I've got Michael Wolf with his hand up. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, thank you, through Your Worship, to staff. Just a question. We received a memo a few weeks ago about the 5G network. I'm just curious, does this supply and delivery of network from TELUS, does it include 5G technology or not?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Wolf, this does not include anything to do with 5G. This is purely for city use in context of retrofitting and refitting a lot of our in-building networking at major facilities, such as Works-Yard and enhancing Wi-Fi. So this is the city Wi-Fi service, not 5G.
Appreciate that. Thanks for the clarification. Cheers.
All right, Carol Day.
Grant, thank you for the report. Just a question, there was only one applicant, TELUS. Is that normal?
I think we've got a very confidential memo about that. Yes, if you want to discuss that, we go into close.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? May I have a motion then? It's moved and it's seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, I'll take it that that's carried without opposition. Next item is the request for the food primary entertainment endorsement, etc., for audience participation of the Pacific Gateway Hotel. Carly, anything you want to say about that?
Nothing to add.
Move the recommendation.
Okay, so that's moved and seconded. Councillor Green.
Thanks very much. I just was hoping staff could clarify for the peace of mind of folks living in Burkeville and across the water in the boat homes. Is outdoor karaoke going to be a possibility?
Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Green. No, this would only apply to the indoor, the conference rooms inside.
Super, thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Day.
Much. I was looking at the map on GP 26 and it shows the 50-meter buffer where we were sending out letters, but did we not send letters to all the people who live in their boats across the water?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, we did not. We generally send the letters to parcels that are within the city's jurisdiction.
I have to make an amendment. Letters to go to the boat owners or the marinas across the way, because noise travels really well on water. And for a lot of these people, this is where they live full time. And while they might not be on land, they're still Richmond citizens. So I would like to amend it that we send letters to the marinas across the water from the, I guess, the deck.
Well, for that, you'd have to refer it back to staff to send out letters and re-notify. But Carly, whereabouts in the hotel are we talking about? In the ballroom?
Yes, this is for adding patron participation for the ballroom, their conferences, their weddings, their events.
So this is not that the place out on the water there, over the water.
This does not change the licensing on the deck. And if I might add, in case it helps, we generally find that liquor licensing for hotel properties are tolerated quite well by neighborhoods, because the hotels have a vested interest in not generating noise because they have their own residents on the same site. And so they tend to do a good job of controlling the noise from within their venues, because it also affects their direct revenue in that their guests.
Okay. All right, I'm good.
All right. Okay, Councillor Al.
I want to ask, in terms of the level point, how is this different from a group of people renting or having a banquet in the hotel and bring in a singer or a band to play music? So in terms of the level of voice, level of noise, how is it different?
Carly?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Al, I believe that I would say that dancing is having music for dancing is probably not like a singer. I think that is likely the reason why this hotel is adding this amendment to their liquor license, because right now they wouldn't be allowed to have dancing or a singer. Because it is what they want to do is add patron participation where they have the food primary license. So I don't think that there's any difference between the two, and this would be allowing either to happen.
Yeah, that's why, I even doubt if this kind of application is necessary, right? Because I think they can hire a singer, they can have a band, they can have people dancing for the whole night. And how is this different from having so-called patron participation entertainment?
No, through the chair to Councillor Al, that is the definition of patron participation. Perhaps there may be some confusion between food primary and liquor primary. When a liquor primary adds the patron participation, they don't need council approval. Council approval is already provided through the liquor primary process. This is adding to the food primary license, and so when it comes to food primary, adding patron participation requires council approval. And prior to this, they wouldn't have been allowed to have singers or music playing for dancing in the food service areas. And I think what the hotel decided is that that was too limiting for them to only have patron participation in the areas that were liquor primary. It was too limiting, so they wanted to add it also to the food primary areas.
All right. With that, I'm going to call the question then. All those in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, that's carried without opposition. Contract award on the fire rescue equipment. We've got Chief Tim Wilkinson here. Did you wish to address it, or Cecilia?
I have nothing to add, Your Worship.
Well, the point that needs clarification is, as I understand in the report, we're not going with the lowest bidder, although the analytical process has said that this is the best value. Can you explain that disconnect?
Yes, thank you for the question. The evaluation team first looked at all 4 vehicles that were part of the RFP. Of those 4 vehicles, one with SafeTech was more expensive. One did not meet qualifications or specifications at all. And then 2 were, let's say, were less money for sure. One thing to consider though is the bid that SafeTech put in versus commercial was considerably of less quality. And the cab and chassis in particular, as a good example, is approximately, the difference is that SafeTech brought a very low introductory level vehicle to the bid, and Pierce, the commercial bid, was significantly higher than what we use right now. And the difference right there is $100,000. And what we've been able to establish is that this is a process that SafeTech has done in the past, come in quite low with a very vague proposal, and then make up the money with change requests and change orders as we improve the specification to where the fire department needs it. So what we're really finding overall is that the quality of the components between the 2 bids, the one bid with commercial being very high quality components, SafeTech not as high a quality overall. And as such, that leads to quite a lot of money right there. And the other area is that our relationship with commercial and Pierce Manufacturing is well established. There is a lot of value added components, such as training is free. We are a fleet member with them, which gets us, we're allowed to do our own warranty work. We're allowed to get priority and delivery of parts, so the vehicles stay online more often. So it's that kind of relationship, plus these component pieces, that give us the best value, in our opinion.
All right. So far we've got Bill, Linda, Michael as speakers. So Bill?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. A quick question, you alluded to it. And first question on commercial. We've done previous business with them before in buying our trucks. Where did we get our ladder truck and the other Quints prior to this?
Thank you. Through the chair to the Councillor McNulty, we have worked with the manufacturer Pierce for quite some time. The distributorship has changed from WFR, which was in Alberta, to commercial more recently. So the primary relationship is with Pierce, the manufacturer. The distributor is a local company here in BC.
Okay. The other question was in terms of the engine and Quint, we're putting them forth in order of priority for safety, as opposed to just filling them for staffing. We need them. There's a need here, is there not?
There is. Thank you for, yes, through the chair. There is a need for both the Quint is right at end of life right now, and it will take us an additional 13 to 16 months to receive the trucks. And so by that time, it's well past its life. And the engine is going to be able to facilitate the additional staffing that council passed.
Okay. And for the record, you've come out and said we need a hazmat truck. And my question is, how much of a priority and when will you bring that forward, given the nature of some of the situations our men and women are in today? Should that truck come forward sooner rather than later?
Through the chair to Councillor McNulty, we are of the belief that we can continue to operate safely and efficiently with the truck we have in place for another year or 2.
Okay. All right. I have no problem with this, and thank you.
All right. Linda?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to staff. Can someone tell me how much money is in the fire vehicle and equipment reserve right now?
I'm sorry, I don't have that number in front of me.
Is there anybody in finance staff who can say that?
Is Jerry there or Andrew Nazareth? Can you tell us that? Somebody?
Through your
maybe
worship,
one-
I can answer that question. As at December 31, there is approximately $1 million in the reserve.
So if there's only $1 million in the reserve, where's the rest of the money coming from?
And I will preface that by saying that is the uncommitted reserve balance. So they would have, this amount for the fire trucks would be sitting in committed funds.
All right, thank you. And I do have a question. I think it would probably be to the fire chief. On our GP 31, it talks about the hazardous material truck is close to the end of life, but can be maintained. So if we're looking at another 2 years, what do you think the cost of maintenance for that would be? And then, you know, given the delivery time is 13 to 16 months, it may almost be worth it to order it now when we know it's not going to come for 18 months.
Through the chair to Councillor McPhail, I'm not 100% sure on the cost of the maintenance. However, this vehicle gets very low mileage through the year, and it's not especially hard mileage, if you will. So we don't expect the cost to maintain it to be unmanageable. This is why we've been able to recommend pushing it out.
All right, thank you.
Councillor Wolf? Yeah, Linda, take down your hand, please.
Yes, thank you. I have 3 question areas through your worship to fire chief. First one is partially answered already. The status on the 2 vehicles. So the Quince says it's at end of life and is costly to maintain. What's next for it then? Does it become a parts vehicle? Does it get sold? And then that money goes back into the fire rescue reserve fund. And then the other vehicle, which was in the report called a reserve vehicle, and that's what the 24 new staff are using. What's the status on that reserve vehicle? So when a new replacement would come, would that reserve vehicle be utilized for future filling in the blanks kind of process?
Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Wolf. The status, the Quint is right at end of life. It's actually going to be a year past end of life by the time we get finished. It'll be approximately 21, almost 22 years old. The engine is going to be used for the additional staffing the council's already approved. The status of the reserve vehicle will be that because we now have a larger fleet, we need a bit more in reserve so that we can continue to operate should trucks be damaged, in need of maintenance, all of those kind of operational issues to maintain a sustainable operation.
To follow up on that, thank you through the chair to fire chief. So the reserve vehicle is an engine. It's a fire engine.
Yeah, through the chair to Councilor Wolf, that's correct.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I was doing a lot of research on this, and the terminology is a little bit overwhelming, and it overlaps a lot. So, thank you. I have 2 more areas here. In the past, for some of our fleet additions, is having 2 proponents typical, or I looked into some other companies and I noticed they weren't. They didn't have a proposal. So, is 2 a typical number?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, it's typical to have 2 or 3 proposals. We have had proposals from a company called E1 in the past, which is another American company. I'm not sure why they didn't bid. I know our purchasing team has reached out to different groups because we were very mindful about going out to the market and actually asking different groups to reply to our RFP. Yet we were still in the game too.
Okay, thanks. My final question area then relates to another American company, or I guess origins is Austrian. It's the company known as Rosenbauer, and if that's familiar to you, you might have learned that in the past year they've kind of showing what they think the future of firefighting will look like. And the Los Angeles Fire Department just purchased the very first North American electric fire rescue vehicle. So it's not a quince, it's not equal to the two vehicles that you're suggesting today. But regardless, that company is has a turnaround for custom ordered vehicles of about 10 months, which I found quite short compared to the ones that we've been quoted here. They are also more of a plug-in electric hybrid, so they have what sounds to me is ideal for Richmond suitability. So the EV component can travel 30 kilometers. It can pump water for 30 minutes. But if you, and they also have a small inline six diesel engine on board, which allows you to have 8-hour runtime without doing any charging up. And the other component to this is the fact that the personnel on board and the Richmond public often are breathing in the heavy particulate emissions from diesel engines. And currently our vehicles that have about a 12.8 liter engine, kind of diesel engine. Whereas I learned in Kelowna, they have a Green Star version where there's this IRT, and I'm not sure if you can comment on if our the two new vehicles will have. IRT stands for idle reduction technology, because what I've often noticed is our fire trucks, when they're out on site, they're idling the whole time because they don't have the high standard of lithium battery to be able to turn off the engine and allow the other operational components. I have a whole bunch of other things I could say about the Rodenbauer version. There's lots you can see on the website. If you just search up CFT, it's their concept fire truck.
Okay, let's get an answer to this.
Yeah, if you could ask.
Tim, what can you tell us about this?
Well, thank you, and thanks for pointing out the Rosenbauer product. Rosenbauer is a good product. They're actually a split-off company from Smeal, who was one of the other proponents. The Safe Tech group is actually Smeal. Smeal and Rosenbauer are actually just brothers who split the company, and they're both in Snyder, Nebraska. The electric vehicle, I think, will be useful in the years to come. I think we should continue to keep an eye on that vehicle. Currently, it doesn't have the capacity to pump the amount of water that we need in our city. But that doesn't mean that's going to always be the way. This is a concept vehicle. It's got a lot of good about it. It's just not 100% there yet. But we will keep an eye on that. We were very interested in that vehicle too. We did have the opportunity to actually see it in person. It was here in Vancouver, and we went out and had a look at it. And it is an impressive piece of equipment. It just isn't quite there yet. That's all. It's just very new. The other thing is that, really, as most new things are, they're very expensive right now. So the Green Star program, we did look into the Green Star program, and through Kelowna, our problem with it is what it takes to maintain the Green Star is actually a small engine that actually puts out more particulate than the large diesel engine. It's a small gas engine, and yes, you don't idle, but you run the generator. And the generator actually is a small gas engine that creates this really quite large footprint, whereas our new diesel vehicles really have very low emissions, and we have them regularly tested to make sure they're actually working to that level. Currently, there isn't great options. We have gone to all low emitting diodes for for all our lights. So we've really reduced our idling as much as our current vehicles can, and we will look forward to the new innovations.
Great. Thank you for your expertise on the matter. Appreciate that.
Okay, Councillor Au.
Yes, I have a question for the Fire Chief. I want to ask a question about the evaluation summary for the engine. Well, I have to admit that I'm not a professional, and I have to rely on the professional evaluation being done by staff. But I noticed that the difference between the two engines is only 2 points, right? 65% and 63%. So I hope that the Fire Chief can explain, what is the difference, and also particularly in relation to the cost, because I noticed that the Safe Tech engine is costing about 20% less, and that means about $200,000. So if I'm an ordinary citizen, I want to ask, why would this small difference in terms of the percentage would justify a difference of $200,000 difference in cost? So, I mean, as I said, right, I'm not questioning the professional evaluation, but I just want to have a further elaboration on, why that kind of recommendation.
Kim?
Yes, thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Au. I would say one of the major differences is the cabin chassis configuration. Right there, that's $100,000 per vehicle. And what we found is that configuration has reduced our injuries to our firefighters to nil. And so we have, since 2014, we have not had an injury to a firefighter getting in or out of a truck using the current configuration that we are putting forward here. So while the evaluation can be very close in terms of it's just whatever someone has written on a piece of paper, our experience in reduction of injuries, for example, if a firefighter hurt their knee and was off for 6 months, that's $50,000 to $60,000. And this was happening regularly to us. And so the ergonomic design of the dash CF cab, which is what we're proposing to council, has reduced our injuries to nothing since 2014.
Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you for that information. Thank you.
All right, may I have a motion accordingly? Moved and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? I'm not seeing anyone opposed. It's carried.
Sorry, Malcolm, I was trying to ask a question there.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
Sorry about that. Tim, if you're still there, I have one more question for you. In the future, is it possible to include some of those more details into your report? I think understanding, the health and safety of our firefighters, understanding how you get the difference and whether or not you put it solely in dollars and cents, or if you have more information like you're giving. So we're not relying on it when we come to the meeting, that we can better understand where these differences are coming from. If you're going to be able to specify the expected repairs, or that it's more expensive, or, is there some way of evaluating the benefit of having a long-standing relationship with an existing supplier? I think those are valuable, but from what we were given today, it was hard to pick that out from that. So if we could put more of that into the report, it would make more sense to us, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And the other thing is, obviously, we'll be looking for technology changes to the EVs or whatever it is in the future, and that's going to be a bigger factor. So that gets to the Planning and Development Division items. So first of all, on Granville Avenue, Wayne Craig, did you want to say a word about that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll pass it over to Nathan Andrews, the planner, just to introduce the item.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have nothing further to add aside from highlighting the fact that this is a single-family rezoning application that is consistent with the OCP and the arterial road policy for subdivision into 2 compact single detached lots with vehicle access from the rear lane. Each newly created lot will be providing a 1-bedroom secondary suite, and Lot B will require a development variance permit for a rear yard setback to move the building envelope towards the rear in order to save the trees in the front yard. Due to this shift, it will also require a variance to the private outdoor space from the rear to the front, as parking for the secondary suite must be provided. Happy to answer questions you may have.
All right, I've got Kelly then Michael. Kelly?
Thank you. I had a question. I was reviewing the configuration of the lots, and thank you for getting the trees saved as much as possible. But have we considered any overlook issues or deep shading issues on the neighboring lot to Lot B?
Through the chair to Councillor Green, through the forthcoming development variance permit, there would be detailed architectural designs required for that lot, including shadow analysis, and that application would also require notification to the adjacent neighbors as part of the variance permit application.
Okay, good. I'd hate for, a balcony or something to just be looking straight into somebody's backyard. Thank you.
Other than within policy, of course. Michael?
Yeah, just briefly that I was curious how the owners came to the realization of saving trees, and that could be done through building footprint adjustments. Was that a staff recommendation, or was that on the owner's own initiative?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, as with any application, our starting point is to look at the natural assets on the site, and then where those assets deem protection measures, we look what options are available to manipulate building envelopes. In terms of the 2 trees on the subject site, it was through the arborist report and staff's review of the arborist report that we identified that those trees were worthy of preservation.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Kelly, your hand's still up.
The recommendation.
So it's moved and it's seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Then that brings us to the Williams Road property. Wayne, did you want to introduce this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll pass it over to Jordan Rockery, the planner, for a brief introduction of the application.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Nothing further to add to report. Just want to highlight that this is a rezoning application affecting 2 single-family lots that would permit the development of a townhouse project consistent with the arterial road policy, and access is proposed from a neighboring development site that is currently at 3rd reading. Happy to answer any other questions.
Okay, I'm not seeing anything yet, so.
Move the recommendation.
Moved, so it's moved and seconded.
Yeah, my hand was up.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Your Worship. My question, similar to the last one here, I see that there's a slight adjustment of where their trail will be, which will help protect the magnolia tree and the cherry in the front corner. So yeah, I appreciate 2 back-to-back proposals here for tree retention. My question though is related to the one house. I think it's the 8251 address. To me, it seems like a fairly new house. Is staff able to say what age of house that is? Because it seems like quite a waste of material to have a new house go up and then take it down right away.
Through the chair, unfortunately, I do not have the exact age of the house in front of me. I can provide that information should this application proceed prior to council next week.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Green.
Thank you. I was just hoping staff could describe the process if for some reason the adjoining townhouse development stalls out, and I know that they have there's an agreement for the driveways to be connected internally, and so what happens if that doesn't go forward? Because I know there's a lot of uncertainty now. So what happens with this one?
Through the chair to Councillor Green, should the application to the east proceed, it will include registration of the statutory right-of-way. The statutory right-of-way does enable the city to allow this developer to construct the driveway on the adjacent lot if, in fact, the adjacent townhouse was to stall after rezoning adoption. In the event that that application was to be withdrawn before adoption, this application would have to come back for redesign.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we've got the motion on the floor. I don't see any other speakers. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So that is carried. Brings us to the Council and Committee August meeting schedule. Who wants to address this? Claudia, are you going to address it?
I've got nothing further to add, Your Worship. I can certainly answer questions.
All right, so the gist of the report is that this is important time, COVID notwithstanding. We can have an important meeting. So long as everybody stays in touch, we can have it on a day's notice, and we can go accordingly. And this will help with the staffing situation generally, right?
That's correct, yes.
All right, comments, questions?
I'm trying to put my hand up, Your Worship. Just
Go
a
ahead.
question for clarification, if I may, then. You can call a meeting if needed, but according to statute, how many councillors does it take to call a meeting if 2 or 3 or 5 of us said, hey, we definitely need a meeting, and we push to have it called, have the chair call it?
The chair can call it on 24 hours notice, or any 2 councillors, correct? Yes.
That is correct.
Claudia's shaking her head on that.
Okay. I think that's important for the record, to have any meeting called if we know, so now we know the process. Thank you.
Yeah. The one thing I wanted to raise, it's not about August, but it's about September. UBCM is going to have a virtual meeting of some sort, but everybody's going to be here. My suggestion is we shift our meetings, which would be GP, and also assuming that we're back to a regular committee schedule in September, shifting GP and Public Works to the 21st, 22nd, which would be the regular days, because those were shifted to the previous weeks. I see, Councillor Howe, you're chairing Public Works, so you're okay with that. Any comments on that?
Makes eminent sense. It makes eminent sense given what we're going through.
Okay, Councillor Wolf.
Thank you. My comment would be that after attending my very first UBCM last year, I found it very valuable to be there, and without knowing the schedule of what's going to happen on the Monday or Tuesday right now of that UBCM, if it is the full 5 days, I wouldn't want to potentially miss an important vote or session. So for myself, I would like us to remain at the schedule we have. Thanks.
Well, you're not going to Victoria.
Oh, I know, but if it's
a virtual meeting,
if it's a live virtual thing to participate in, and I'm in the GP meeting, which is my priority, I miss something else. Well, right now we work the schedule out so that we could attend.
Well, I think it's a fine point, but my suggestion is what we do is we bear it in mind, and we get closer to it. And if there is plan to meet Monday, Tuesday, 21st, 22nd, and if there's a change or if there's something that comes up that's really important for UBCM, I frankly imagine that they're going to have a fairly compressed meetings, some stuff in the morning, stuff in the afternoon, but they're not going to go really early or really late. That's my guess. We can always change it at a later point, either one of those committee meetings. But I think that in terms of people's planning, I think it's somewhat important that we know kind of what the idea is, subject to any change. Councillor Green.
My point is exactly that. If we can change it at a later date, let's leave it like it is now and make adjustments if we find out that the UBACM schedule is compressed. Because as Councillor Wolf said, things happen at all times of the day. Everything there is incredibly valuable, that it's important for us to be there and have the flexibility to meet ministers at the drop of a hat, run into a seminar.
Councillor Green, you're not going to Victoria. Okay.
I understand that, but when it was here in person, we still had events that we missed out on that were valuable because we had to be at a meeting when something was happening at UBCM. So I'd hate for that to happen again, where we had to choose between a valuable seminar at UBCM and the meetings that we are obligated to be here and participate in.
All right. I'm making a motion that we plan to have our regularly scheduled GP meeting on 21st of September and the Public Works meeting on the 22nd of September, subject to subsequent change under the circumstances upon notice. So that's moved and seconded. Comments on that? Harold?
Yeah, if I could comment, I agree with that. I think, however, what we can do if there's something going on, especially the fact we aren't traveling, it may well be we would have one or two councillors would have to go to whatever other meeting was going on. If you recall, 2 years ago, the Coastal Community Network had a conference on the Monday. I had to go all the way to Victoria to attend a 2-hour meeting, and I missed everything at City Hall. This year, they generally have the meeting in the morning, and this year, if it was a regular council meeting, I could attend it if they have one. They didn't have one last year, but they probably will this year. So I think we should be able to work around that, and we would have to probably have one or two councillors missing, possibly. But I think this works just to have a regular schedule and see where we go from there.
Councillor Day.
I think we should keep the schedule the way it is, so I won't be supporting that motion because it's happened to me also where I've been double booked and had to choose between one or the other. And, the whole reason we moved the Public Works GP to the 15th and 16th of September was to allow councillors to be able to do both. So if we down the road decide to move it, if we get the schedule for UBCM and it becomes abundantly clear that there is time for us to have the meeting on a Monday, then at that point I'd be fine with moving it, but not yet, where we don't know.
Well, I think that if the past is any indication, we'll have a schedule about a week ahead of time. So I think that we need to move it now, and we can always move it back if there's something terribly urgent. Secondly, if I'm guessing that 4 o'clock on that Monday and Tuesday will be quite free, and it won't be a problem. So I'm going to call the question on the motion to change those two meetings back. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so just a minute. I need to see hands. I've got Councillor McNulty, McPhail, Lou, Al, Steves, and the mayor in favor. Those opposed? Councillor Green, Councillor Day, Councillor Wolf. So that is carried. And on the motion to receive for information, all those, just a minute, we need a motion on that. Someone move that?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. So, someone move adjournment? Someone move adjournment?
Move adjournment.
Okay, we're now adjourned, and we'll go to the finance open meeting. All right, calling the Finance Committee meeting to order. May I have a motion on the minutes? Moved and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor, votes carried. Lulu Island Energy Company, Jerry Chong, Alan Postolka. Anything to add to your report, guys?
Nothing to add, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Councillor Steves, you had a question? Or was that from the last one?
That's the last find the hand.
Okay, okay, if you find it, shake it. Okay, any questions of anybody? Okay. Moved and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor? Any opposed?
I had a question.
Okay, so it's carried, but Councilor McNulty, go ahead.
On page 14, where we have current assets, et cetera, we got other investments. What are those investments, and why wouldn't we list them in category? If they're category, are they terms, are they bonds, or whatever?
Through the chair to Councillor McNulty, those investments are term deposits that we hold in various institutions.
Okay, but in our regular, we list, we have X dollars with the Bank of Nova Scotia, X dollars with A bank, B bank, Z bank, M bank. And, you know, on this, we don't have where they are. It's just a summary. I think maybe we should have that for future. Just take that under advisement. Be a little more explicit and a little more transparent. That's all.
Jerry, do we do that on an interim basis or just on an annual basis?
Mr. Chairperson, for the city, we list that out on a quarterly basis just because of the magnitude of the investments. With Lulu Island, we just do that. We have that information in the annual report, but we can start bringing that quarterly if that's what the council wishes.
All right. Now, we'll go to number 2, which is the Richmond Olympic Oval Corporation, the first quarter results. Pre-COVID, I take it this report is going to be pretty different the next time. Rick DeSange, are you there, Rick?
Yeah, nothing further to add, Your Worship.
All right. Let's see now. Bill, was your hand up from the
Sorry,
previous one?
Sorry, the last one. Apologies.
Okay, I'm not seeing anyone else. May I have a motion then?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any comments, questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's carried. Active capital projects in the first quarter, Melissa Shao.
Yes, Your Worship, nothing to add to the report.
Any questions, anybody? Councillor Green.
I was just wondering if you're able to answer yet whether we're able to access any of the federal funding for the capital projects that are ongoing.
Through the chair to Councillor Green, I'm not aware of any confirmed funding, but I did understand that there was some potential announcement of available funding today.
Okay, I look forward to hearing that we've scored some of that federal money.
Councilor McNulty, did you have your hand up?
Question.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's my understanding, and if not, just because we approve them in terms of the capital projects, other than operational, to keep us going day to day, are not all the major capital projects on hold?
Through the chair to Councillor McNulty, all of the projects have been previously approved by council, and I can confirm that funding has been committed and set aside. So in terms of availability of funding, it is there. In terms of specific capital project status, I'd have to defer to the specific project managers to speak to that.
I guess my comment here is I think they should be put on hold, even though I'm in favor of them. Because we don't know where we're going until this is all over. So I think it's something that we need to do it. For example, on page 43, and I had moved that we would have a workshop on the Garden City lands. We have almost $6 million. We're going to construct wide range park infrastructure and site elements. I have no idea what that means because I was hoping we would have a workshop so all the councillors could put input into where we see the Garden City lands going. And so that's why I asked. I assume that's on hold. We're not doing anything till we have that workshop and future discussion.
Through the chair to Councillor McNulty, perhaps I could respond specifically to the Garden City lands. You have received a memo suggesting that there would be a workshop in the fall. Until that time, no further work is being done. The description of the project is what's been approved in previously approved capital projects.
I know we have approved it, but again, another one I think should be on hold till there's more input from members of committee, and we have a chance to look at those. I don't think, given where we are, and I still haven't received, Your Worship, my request at the last council meeting, how much we've saved in wages from those that we've laid off for almost 3 months now. And I'd like to see that as a memo. So whoever's responsible for that, please, I don't want to have to make an motion. I thought it was taken under advisement. But when I look at each of these, I think the public right now are not expecting us to continue spending. Thank you.
All right, I've got Michael, Harold, Carol. Michael?
Yeah, thank you. Very, very briefly related to the point Councillor Green brought up. So that Prime Minister announcement of 2.2 billion, that's going to be the same money we would have got, but we're getting it sooner. And it could be used for internet networks, water, road systems, construction of bike and walking paths. So have staff already estimated our share of that and applied that anywhere in this report?
Your Worship, perhaps I could answer that. Staff have been working on preparing the priority list of capital projects that we're going to submit. At this point, they haven't opened it up for applications. What we've just heard is the announcement, but nothing specific. So we're waiting and we're preparing at this point our submissions. As well, the announcement today was for the fuel tax, and that primarily goes to TransLink in BC. There's a small share that goes through UBCM, and we get a portion of that. It's about $600,000 a year.
Thank you for the clarification. Appreciate that.
Harold?
Yeah,
your hand is still up.
Yeah, no, I want to talk on this one. I got an email on Friday, and I passed it on to Marie Fenwick. Apparently, the federal government on Thursday or Friday announced some major funding for heritage restorations and heritage construction, and they want shovel-ready projects. So I've sent that to Marie. I haven't heard back from Marie. I think I emailed it to her on Friday. But apparently, they're looking at that's one of the ways of getting people back to work.
Okay, Councillor Day. Harold, your hand's still up. Go ahead.
Okay, so on page FIN 43 is the Gardens Agricultural Park. And it says that full implementation was approved, but it's on hold due to the potential impacts of the George Massey Tunnel project. But we now know that the footprint of the project will not be encroaching on that Gardens Agricultural Park. So why is that still on hold?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, the park is in progress. We're actually working on the north end of the park as we speak. Staff have done a number of project improvements on the beds. We're working on final design as well as design for the perimeter of the park itself. The section to the east of the park that you're speaking to, we still have some relationship and contractual obligations with BC Hydro that we have to work through that we're part or privy to the bridge works, and we're still waiting for direction from them on that.
So I walked the whole thing and stuck around and saw all that. I guess it's looking fantastic, and already people are walking and using it, and there's just nothing like it in this part of Richmond. So when do you expect that northern section to be completed?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, that'll be open later this year, hopefully by the end of the summer.
All right, thank you. Well done.
Thanks. I'll pass it on.
Okay, that's my speakers list. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion from anybody? All Councillor McPhail?
Yes, my hand was up. Thank you, Your
Sorry
Worship.
about that.
I just had a question in general. I know this is in regards to the first quarter. And since COVID, just a general question, has there been any delays directly related to COVID? I mean, we've been hearing that this is a good time to do some of the road work because of less traffic. So just a general question, has COVID caused any, impact? For example, I heard the pool was finished.
To Your Worship, or to Councillor McPhail, through Your Worship, we largely haven't seen any impacts. I'm aware of one site where there was a partial shutdown due to one of the construction workers for one of our contractors having been exposed to COVID, and they since remobilized. But beyond that, we haven't seen any material slowdown in our contractors or our construction program with City Forces.
Thank you. Has the pool been completed then? The construction part?
They are largely complete, yes.
Great, that's good news. Thank you.
All right, sorry, Linda, I missed your hand, but it's still up. Anyone else? Okay, we've got the motion on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So that's carried. Brings us to the financial information on the first quarter. Cindy Gilfillan. Cindy?
Thank you. Nothing further to add, Your Worship.
Okay. Anybody got any questions on that one? Okay. I'm not seeing anything. May I have a motion then?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is carried. And the last one are the annual report and the annual report highlights. Bill, your mic is still on.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead then.
Yeah, I just say who's the delegation that is again for the, I guess, the 16th year in a row to pick up the British Columbia Award for reporting. I'm just going to say to thank you to staff for outstanding report, putting it together again, and maybe we should give up that to somebody else just because we're magnanimous about our reporting. So good job, staff.
Okay, Alexa.
Thank you, through Your Worship. Just a question to staff. I've noticed that we want to encourage people to look at this online and to be able to access it. And sort of going through it, if we go into, say, PLN, FIN 87, it talks about things like, if you read it talks about partway through, it talks about our, homelessness strategy. And I'm wondering if we might be able to make it so that we have a link in there. So things like when we talk about strategies, when we talk about other things, that we could put the link directly in there so that people access it. I know it's typically a PDF document, but is there a way that we could put such a document online so that when people are reading through it and they read about, oh, there's a strategy, then they could press it and move forward. So maybe not for this one, maybe the next one, but maybe we could do it for this one because we're trying to get people on the online format. People are doing it a lot more. We really want people to drill down further into what they're, what we're doing as a city, I think. And so I think this would really enhance our communication with people if we could do that.
Clay, what do you think? Could we do that?
Yes, through Your Worship, Councillor Lou. Yes, we can certainly do that. We'll actually have a look and see if we can do that even for this existing version in the online manner, and certainly take it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, because there's a lot of points like, our homeless strategy, and there's so many things that it refers to something else. And, for people who go to the trouble to read this, to then try and hunt it down and find it after the fact, it's far less user friendly. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. You want to put your hand down there, Alexa? Anyone else? May I have a motion then? Is it moved? So moved and seconded. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Move adjournment.
Okay, now we're